Hey everybody, welcome, and let's just get right to it. First of all, Brian Flores was the coach of the Miami Dolphins. He filed a lawsuit against the Dolphins in the National Football League alleging racism, and the latest actions by the Dolphins really don't prove him wrong. They hire Mike McDaniel, who has a super thin resume. He was offensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers for all of a year, barely. Last year. 4 years as running backs coach prior to that. Well, 3 years as running backs coach and then offensive coordinator. He's from Aurora, Colorado. He was intern and then running game coach for 3 different NFL teams prior to that. There are people who say he's really bright. Okay, what does that mean? What does that mean? A friend of mine says, well, he uses wide receivers as running backs. That's not new. In fact, and then he said, my friend went on to say, well, he has this way of pitching the ball back, having the quarterback vertical pitch back. That's not new. That was done by Stanford coach David Shaw 6 years before today, and using Ty Montgomery and other examples of Stanford wide receivers as running backs. So that's not new at all. And arguably, since Coach McDaniel has been with the 49ers, I could argue that, hey, he went down to watch what David Shaw did and stole from him. Okay, sure looks like it to me. No innovator. And then when you hire somebody and the first words out of your mouth are, well, he's biracial, that means your whole focus was racist to begin with. Period. End of story. Byron Leftwich coached the GOAT, the greatest of all time quarterback, Tom Brady, who vouched for him as a head coach. Byron Leftwich should have a job. He should have a job with Jacksonville. He should have a job someplace else. Jim Caldwell is regarded as one of the best offensive coaches in league's history. He has a winning record. Marvin Lewis is one of the best coaches in NFL history. He has a winning record. Some people point out with the Bengals that he didn't get them the Super Bowl, but he also didn't have the worst record in the NFL either. And he had the Bengals in the NFL playoffs not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, but 7 times. At this point in our history, the NFL's makeup should look like the NBA, where African-American players, many of legendary status, should have front office jobs and head coaches, and there should be a revolving door and retreads just as much as their white counterparts at the coaching level. That's where the National Football League should be. But you hold that up as a model, and it's quite obvious the NFL is not only there, but it is resisting getting there. And it is quite literally throwing the whole issue in the face of the American public, and then trotting out these shameful tropes about, well, he's biracial, where people say, well, gee, we don't know what his father looks like, or we don't know that his father's black. And the bottom line is, if you have to go out and find somebody who passes white, it just proves the racism problem. It's like, it reminds me of Spike Lee's movie School Days. You know, you had the jigaboos who are black folks like me, and then the wannabes who are black folks who could pass as white. So what you're telling me is it's okay to have a person out there who can pass as white and then turn around and say is black. That's really your argument for Mike McDaniel. That's your first argument, which means what? Which means you don't know football. No one out there can tell me what innovations or innovation Mike McDaniel brought to football that no one else had done before. The answer is nothing, okay? Nothing. Just because he has a way of expressing something that's clear doesn't mean that he's going to be the best head coach. And if I have to bend over backwards to come up with reasons why he's the best hire, then guess what, folks? He is not the best hire, okay? He's not. At this point, Congress should get involved because the behavior of the NFL collectively is shameful. I never thought I would see the NFL allow this kind of look, this kind of pose, to leave out not just qualified, but expertly qualified black candidates as head coach, to go out and get a guy like Doug Peterson, who retired, and not bring in Jim Caldwell, who also retired. I remember when I first met Jim Caldwell, I said, hey, when you coming back? Because I'm going to take a year rest, all right? Considering the job that Jim Caldwell did with the Baltimore Ravens offense alone, considering the job that he did with the Colts and leading them to the Super Bowl against the Saints, considering Jim Caldwell's amazingly giant resume, that Jim Caldwell is not head coach somewhere right now is automatic proof of the NFL's racism problem. All this does is add on to the proof. You have a cacophony of qualified black candidates now. It's not a matter of at what point does it stop. Hey, folks, it stops now. Because you put in Mike McDaniel. And then with the Jaguars, they wanted to bring in Doug Peterson. And you might want to take a look at the decline of the Philadelphia Eagles after their Super Bowl victory. Just saying, okay? Rather than say, hey, you know what? Byron Leftwich coached the greatest of all time quarterback, and then coached Jameis Winston, and then made adjustments to Bruce Arians' system, okay? To Bruce Arians' system that basically say, hey, you know what? Made those adjustments, okay? And then turned around and excelled and got a Super Bowl, all right? And got a Super Bowl, period, okay? Period, end of story, all right? Period, end of story. It is misinformation to put out biracial first, all right? But it's also racist. So if you come here to make the argument that it's okay that he passes as white, you're proving the point. If you come here to say the words biracial because you read them, and you don't even know who his father is or what his father looks like, then you've proven my point. And if you've come here to press that point when the argument is hiring a black person, not a biracial person, I don't care. I don't care. A black person. A black person. To eliminate this obvious look of racism. I'm adding clarity to this discussion. The idea is to hire black candidates because you have so many players, 70% who are black, and you're sending a message that is not unlike that was sent by Al Campanis way back in 1979 when he said that he didn't think that black folks, people who look like me, had what it takes to be managers, didn't have the managerial and the intellectual component. He said that on national television. He rightly got fired. Woody Hayes went out and struck a football player with his fists and rightly got fired. Today, we seem to think that kind of behavior is okay. Bruce Arians strikes his black player twice. Why? Because he said he doesn't want him to get a penalty. Huh? Does he get fired? No, he got fined $50,000. Should have gotten fired as far as I was concerned. As far as I'm concerned, out. Enough of this allowing racism, of sending the message that it's okay for a white coach to put his hands on a black player because that, well, black player is a black player. To even think or try to think of an argument that justifies that immediately brands you as racist. is no other way to explain it. None, okay? None. At all. At all. There is no other way to explain it, okay? None. None. Okay? All right? None. You want to talk to me as a person who's a student of football innovation, okay? As a person who's a student of football innovation, going back to when I was 16 years old, well, technically 15 years old, that Mike McDaniel is an innovator. Again, what did he create? I will name innovators to you. Dick LeBeau, creator of the zone blitz. There's an innovator. There's an innovator. Fritz Schirmer, creator of the two-down lineman defense. There's an innovator, okay? There is an innovator, all right? There is an innovator, okay? There is an innovator, all right? There is an innovator, okay? There is an innovator. There is an innovator. Or how about, okay, how about Tony Dungy, creator of the Tampa 2. These are recognizable innovations in football. What has Mike McDaniel innovated? None. You can't answer that. And it's quite telling that the people, one of the persons at least, who comes here has no knowledge of football at all and just wants to talk about or spread a lie about race. Here's one lie. Mike McDaniel is not black. Here's one statement that is not a lie. Mike McDaniel is not black. Mike McDaniel is not black. Okay? I don't care what you call him. You can't say he's African American. All right? And this is at a critical time when, hey, it's excuse after excuse after excuse after excuse after excuse for not hiring someone who is black. This is the latest one. This is no way to treat your country. It's un-American. I realize that there are a number of people out here who don't like America as diverse, but the Constitution has written in diversity. Period, end of story. If you don't like it, leave the country. If you want to go someplace where you think your lot is better, leave. But when you're in the United States of America, follow the United States Constitution. Everyone is entitled to the same level of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The NFL is stopping far too many well-qualified black candidates from achieving their rightful place as head coaches by behavior like this. Mr. McDaniel, Coach McDaniel, has a resume so thin, how do you defend it? And then he's from Aurora, Colorado, and what's Aurora known for but racist cops who go around beating to a pulp to the point of killing black kids. That's Aurora, Colorado's contribution to the United States, other than Mr. McDaniel. Wow. Okay. And yet, then someone else says, well, the GM was black, so it was okay. The person who makes the final say and has involvement in who runs the team as coach is the owner. That's Mr. Ross, who I know. And I'm disappointed that he would allow this kind of look when he knows how many extremely qualified black candidates there are out there. Again, the NFL should look like the NBA at this point. It's only logical. It's only logical. But that the league is bending over backwards to allow this kind of outcome is nothing less than purely sick. It's got to stop. Congress must take some type of action. Congress must take it up as a hearing. Congress must talk about it. And the way this is going, because of the way the parties are going, this will be a bipartisan discussion. There are Republicans who agree with my take, as well as Democrats. Don't kid yourself. The United States is far more advanced, okay? Far more advanced. As Landry Day says, hello, who is this guy? What has he accomplished? Nothing. Nothing. He is, let's see, 38, okay? And then you have somebody who cherry picks that, well, he's a bright guy. There are a lot of bright people in the National Football League. Is it bright that he happens to speak the Queen's English like I do? Is that the qualification? I mean, come on. This is beyond sad. Absolutely beyond sad. The job should have went to Byron Leftwich or Jim Caldwell or Eric Bienamy. In other words, you know, and there are other African-American coaches ready to be placed into those areas. You know who they are. You know it. You know it. What we're getting is a set of African-American people who are afraid to say anything, okay? Oh, by the way, Landry Day, the 49ers offensive coordinator for all of 1 year. His resume was light. You'd say, who is this guy? I already said it before you came in, okay? His resume is super light, okay? Period. He was offensive coordinator for 1 year. He was named offensive coordinator January 21st, if memory serves, of last year, 2021, okay? Period, okay? The last game that he put in, oh, by the way, he wasn't even last season the play caller. It was Shanahan, which is interesting since many of the people who criticized or tried to criticize Eric Bienamy said he didn't call plays, even though there are photographs of him with headset and play sheet. Doing what? Calling plays. This is a word and image game that has taken on ugly proportions. When you have to trot out somebody, and rather than recite his qualifications, the first words out of your mouth are, well, it's okay because he's biracial. I mean, come on. That tells you right then and there, you know he's not the right candidate. The Dolphins did not get the right head coach at all. What they got was somebody else who passes, okay? Who passes, all right? Jay Booey says Mike McDaniel is walking into oblivion. Who passes. And so we're focused on that rather than, gee, this man is an innovator in the use of the 4-by-1 formation. You know, 4 wide receivers on one side, one on the other, that sort of thing. No, we don't get that. We don't get that. Terrible hire, absolutely. Okay? And Laundry says, I was late. I had Googled him real quick. I had no idea Eric Bienamy and Byron Leftwich, they have 2 Super Bowls. Exactly. Exactly, okay? Chaos Raider says they could have at least given Eric Bienamy an interview. And they didn't. And they didn't. So, this is an awful place for the league. It is an awful look. And Congress must step in because at the way this is going, that's the only solution is a congressional one. And I'm going to make absolutely certain that my friends in Congress know about this. I'm going to email every chief of staff that I know in Congress and get them to have their bosses talk about this and agendize this and start to craft legislation to stop this stuff. Because the NFL has too large an image and impact on the society. And right now it's not healthy. The NFL's actions are upsetting people. And they are possessive of too large a stage to be allowed to continue to do that. There is no reason for that. The NFL must be made to be a leader in society. That's where we are right now. The National Football League must be made to be a leader in society. Period. That's where we're at. Because it's not a matter of, when we went through this before, watching the countdown. Well, will the Saints hire Eric Bienamy? We hope so. I mean, think about it. We started off with, 9 openings, and we've just watched it go down. This has happened before. Okay? This has happened before. And it went down to 0, and then we, again, will have this situation where we're both lamenting that the NFL doesn't hire black coaches. We cannot allow the National Football League to be racist and just talk about it. We are at the point where the league, by law, by legislation, must be made to do something about it. Why? We have laws on the books that prohibit discrimination in racial hiring. We have laws on the books that combat sexism in hiring and in the workplace. It is time those laws are appropriately activated to apply to the National Football League by Congress. If there's some tweak in the law that needs to be done, so be it. If there's a mention of it, so be it. If the president needs to say something about it, so be it. If the vice president needs to say something about it, so be it. All of those will happen. But the NFL has got to stop this act. Subscribe to Zenny62 and bookmark oaklandnewsnow.com.